Moly Dry Lube has been my budget-friendly stand-in for pro laser sprays. But if I run out and I can't find it, I want to know if there's something just as good in my garage or a craft drawer somewhere. So today we're putting the top 4 DIY contenders head-to-head. Tempera paint, acrylic paint, permanent markers, the Sharpie style, right? And chalk paint. No internet, no mustard. That is a delicious condiment. It should go on a hot dog, and that's where it ends. But before we get into that, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. I set up my paint station using my trusty Bora folding workbench and Wagner spray booth, both of which are super easy to store and set up. They're perfect for my shop and for any DIYer for that matter. The little jars I use came from a local big box store. They're rectangular with 4 flat sides. That makes it easier to apply and test all 4 coatings side by side, and I marked each side right there on the little tag at the bottom with a T, A, C, and M to keep track of everything I was doing. Of course, nothing goes perfectly, especially not around here. First, I couldn't find a Sharpie. I had to go with another permanent marker brand. It said permanent, so that was more than good enough for me. Then the Tempera set I bought didn't include black paint. It showed in the box, but it was not there. So I went full kindergarten, flashback and all, and I mixed yellow, red, and blue to make sort of a black, heavy on the blue. Deep purple, let's just call it. The next challenge was painting by hand. I used these foam brushes, and if you ever try using those on glass, you know it's pretty much an art form. And an art form I just didn't master whatsoever, not even close. I applied 4 coatings to both jars. The spray paint went on cleanly, but with the Tempera, I had to go over twice to get a decent coverage. That's the risk with hand painting. Too thin, too thick, uneven, all over the place. Once they were all coated, I let them cure overnight, as I normally do. You could speed it up with a hairdryer or a heat gun, but I didn't want the risk of uneven curing or, messing too much with the process. Now, a quick note. I'll keep saying engraving, but technically this is marking or etching. Diode lasers don't engrave glass. They mark the coating with heat. Just like I show you guys my stainless steel video. It's going to be here somewhere up in the top. So now we are in XCS. We're going to build our material test array. So we're going to start a new project. The number one thing I do is I always want to know where I'm at when it comes to the real estate allowed within the material that I will be engraving. For that, one important thing we have to do is to measure our jars so that we know how much room we have to engrave. So let me just get this out of the way. So this is jar number 1. That one was done with the marker. This is the chalk paint. This one is the Tempera. So actually it doesn't look so bad, does it? Not on the screen, not live. This is the acrylic. Maybe there was a bit of a pool there, a little bit of an accumulation. And again, we're back. So that's jar number 1. Jar number 2, kind of same situation there. That's my Tempera. That's my acrylic. When the tape healed, I took a little bit of that acrylic. Here's the marker and the chalk, right? So what are we going to do now? We're going to measure things. Why are we measuring? We're just measuring because I want to know how much room I have. So we're going to measure. So that's about 5.5 centimeters there. 5.5 by 5.5 by 6. So we come here to the top. We do unlock the aspect ratio, and we said have 5.5 by 6. Right, so we don't have a whole lot of real estate, so we got to be very mindful of that, right? We'll see what works. For now, let's just focus on getting our material test done. For that, I normally just start with like a little star here, just making sure that we are on the engrave setting. That star is a little too big, right? Normally, when I do my material testing, the stars are like 6 millimeters. And I think we have a much better fit that way. Exactly. And now we can go for the material test array. So when I was using Moly Lube to engrave on glass, I used 100 speed and 80 power, something like that. I got to go through my notes. So that worked for Moly, but I don't know how that will work with tempera or with the chalk paint or with the marker, right? I want to see if we can give it a bit of a wider range and hopefully we'll get some good numbers there, okay? I'm thinking we can do 90 and then we can do 50 for power. And then here we can do, I don't know, 300 to 100. Like I said, what I did before was like 180, but being that this is a little hotter, we'll make it run a little faster here just so it doesn't burn too much. We'll see. This is a pretty wide range, like I said before. Question is, are we gonna have enough real estate? Let's just see. Hey, by the way, I'm using this cursor with the little colors and the little circle there. Let me know if it works for you. Somebody suggested it in the comments and I thought it was a great idea. So I went and bought this app. See, when you guys suggest something, you know, I read those comments and then I execute, right? So I hope it helps. Let me know what you think. If it works, you know, I'll keep using it. All right, let's go to the garage now and see how this will turn out. You know, trying to be smart and avoid scratching, I placed a piece of plywood under them to avoid scratching the coatings. You know, as you're moving them around, I didn't want the honeycomb to mess it up. I had to remove the honeycomb, as a matter of fact, to gain some clearance. And that was a good chance to give the bottom of my laser a well-needed cleaning while I was at it. Just vacuuming. Nothing fancy. And as we were focusing the laser, I realized the module would not be able to reach all the way down to the jar. So I had to find a piece of scrap wood. And wouldn't you know it, look at what I found. What a great timing. It's got to be a sign. So with our DIY subscribe button in place, thank you very much. We gained about an inch or so in height and things went much better with the focusing process from that point on. And another issue, the black from the marker was so dark, the light of the laser was not reflecting back at all, making it very difficult to see the laser guide. I had to improvise again and use that piece of plywood just to give me a bit of a reflective surface to help me with the framing. We're finally ready for our first engraving. We're doing the Sharpie marker first. Yeah, that's the look right there. It's not that I don't trust the enclosure, but it doesn't hurt to have just another layer of protection. Plus, I can see a little better. Let me turn you around. It's missing a few spots there as I didn't calculate the area when I painted it all that great. We shall see once we're done what's going on. All right, so let me turn this off. All right, first impressions first. From here, it looks pretty good. It looks pretty good. And this was the marker. I don't know, you tell me. Next, we're doing chalk paint, which was my favorite coating to apply. It is sprayed very evenly, very clean, and once dry, that matte look was very cool. I had big hopes for chalk paint as I knew I was going to prepare too many glasses for the testing and the final engraving. Alrighty, now we're going to do acrylic paint. Next up, acrylic paint. Same deal, everything looked great while engraving. At this point, I'm thinking most of them have come out very nicely. Now the tempera. That deep purple looked a lot nicer than I had hoped. The only worry was about the laser not being able to get through the thickness or not being black enough. I am starting to see a little bit of a pattern here. All right, so what did we learn? So everything looks pretty good. Recently engraved with this lighting, which is not the greatest, but I'm thinking we'll bring it inside. We'll check and make sure that we like some of the settings. We'll send it through the washing process. We'll wash it with just some soap and warm water. If it's a little more stubborn, we'll come back in, get some alcohol, some of that rubbing alcohol, and clean it that way. And then we'll be able to tell exactly what's a good setting
what's not a good setting.
The tempera washed right off with just soap and water. I was afraid I was going to lose the label with my code at the bottom there. The Sharpie, the acrylic, and the chalk did not react to water, so I had to bring a bit of rubbing alcohol to the party. I poured a little bit of that alcohol on the rag, and a few seconds later, the paint lifted right off. So I put this little piece of paper here so we could see a little better. All right. That is the acrylic. How close can I get to you guys before it gets too blurry? Ooh, maybe not. So the marker, maybe the 60 and the 100 line there, the bottom line. Then this is the chalk paint. Again, at the bottom, but then the 150 row, maybe that one in the middle there. And this is the tempera or tempura. Look at that, 80, 100 also. You know, the ones on the top, you can see that they're missing parts there. We got the 100 here. So I did 80 for power and 100 for speed when I did the one with Moly. I have to get a second opinion there because I like them all, to be honest with you. I think I could do pretty much any of them. Okay, so what we'll do then is we'll figure which one is the best, and then we'll use that setting to engrave on this guy. And depending on what we get here, we'll stack it against molybdenum disulfide. As I shared before, eventually I want to engrave this nice bottle that I will use to hide my cheap whiskey. So I thought to check out Creative Fabrica for a good vintage logo for whiskey or something with that vibe. I try to do SVG files whenever possible as I get better results than with PNG or JPG. As it happened, I found plenty of images and settled for this one. I brought it into XCS, I removed a few lines just to fit the image on the small jar, and used my selected settings for each coating.
Hey, listen, so now we're going to do the serious engraving. So we got our numbers. So me and the missus went over the ones that we thought worked best. As you can see, most of them are in the 100 speed and either 70 or 80 power. So now we will put them to the test, the tempera, the chalk, the acrylic, and the marker, and we will see with this Western vintage type of whiskey label, we will see which one does best. We'll see. I'm not gonna get too excited just now. We'll see. All right, stay tuned.
And we start our engraving process again, armed with our preferred settings for each coating. This one is the marker, and I used 60 power and 100 speed with 120 LPC.
I don't know if you're gonna be able to hear much, but according to this, it's 4 minutes and 44 seconds to apply this engraving to the marker.
Our jar is only 5.5 centimeters by 6. 4 minutes is good enough for our testing.
We're going to do acrylic next.
Acrylic, I did 70 power, 100 speed, and 120 LPC.
Processing, again, 4 minutes, 43 seconds. Let me turn on the mics. The chalk paint. That looks nice.
Again, my favorite to look at, chalk paint, I did 70 power, 100 speed with 120 LPC.
Good old tempera.
And tempera, I did 80 power and 100 speed. And again, 120 for LPC.
So that was the last one. So here's the chalk, right? Here's the marker. And here is the acrylic. Now to wash it, and then we'll determine which one is the winner. All right.
So this one is the acrylic. Let's just triple check the label just to make sure. The next one is the marker. Then we have the chalk. And last but not least, we have the tempera. We shall see here which one is the winner. We have to decide now. And by unanimous decision, Tempera is the winner. I went back and mixed some more colors, trying to get a good coat of it on this glass without overdoing it. These two glasses are for Moly, one is for testing. These glasses look pretty thin, so it's better to be safe. As you can see, I am using the RA2 Pro from Xtool in roller mode. That accessory is a game changer. If you don't have it and want to do glasses or mugs and so on, I have to tell you, it is a must. And just like that, our Moly Lube engraving is done. Looking pretty good, I think. Next is the tempera. I take my measurement for perimeter and length and run the framing, not to burn anything that doesn't need to. As you can see, we're celebrating 3,680 subscribers. Thank you to all of you guys out there that have supported our channel. You guys are amazing. I am hoping we can reach our goal of 5,000 subscribers by the end of the year. With your help, I'm sure we can make it if you take one quick second to subscribe. Again, thank you all for the great support. Speaking of celebrating, this is the opposite of that. I knew the glasses felt pretty thin, and I can't tell you for sure if it happened in the laser, but let's just say it was not the first glass that cracked or broke in the session. The second glass got the very careful alcohol treatment, and a few seconds later, the Moly Lube was almost entirely gone and forgotten. Tempera, as I showed you before, is very easy to clean. Even if you leave some streaks on the sink, don't worry about it. You will be able to remove it very easily. For context, this is the glass I engraved with Moly back in July. I thought that it looked great until now. These are the results of the best DIY markers, not the marking pros. This is Tempera on the left and Moly on the right. I don't know if my poor lighting will help you get to the honest truth here, but from where I stand, right on top of both glasses, I can tell you that the Tempera looks better. It has a nicer frost to it. It is brighter, if that is something we can say in this situation, but it just looks great. Both look pretty good, but Tempera seems to be ahead. No questions asked. I do think I can play a little bit more with the settings and get a better marking, but for now, I've seen everything I needed to see. What do you think? Can you tell the difference? Do you have a preference? Share in the comments. And me being me, I was still not 100% convinced and went ahead and prepared another glass with Tempera. And being that the RA2 was already connected, why not? I went with the same numbers as before, and at least the testing looked great again. I just wish the camera and the lighting was better. As before, I love the way Tempera washes so easily, and I am now fully convinced Tempera works very nicely. Cheers.
And there you have it. Tempera is the clear winner. No pun intended. Maybe a little bit. Out of all the DIY coatings we tested, Sharpie, chalk paint, and acrylic, Tempera outperformed them all. From the very first test, it stood out. That frosted look, that crisp detail, and how few issues I had with it made it the obvious top pick. Plus, it is cheap, easy to clean off, and a great alternative for folks out there who can't or don't want to use spray paint. Just double check that your box actually includes that black, unlike mine. So the big question is, can Tempera replace Moly Dry Lube? The answer is yes, of course. Moly is very consistent and the results are solid, but honestly, it is a bit darker and even dull when compared to that clear finish I got from the Tempera. Will I stop using Moly? Not really. It is very convenient, quick to apply, and a little goes a long way. Just remember, make sure you're wearing your safety gear and you have plenty of ventilation when handling Moly, commercial laser markers, or any kind of chemicals for that matter. Inform yourself and help others stay safe. And I've got to hand it to the internet. All of the DIY coatings actually worked. I was able to get solid engravings from each one. So kudos, internet. Now, I'm curious about the next level, a professional grade laser marking spray. I just picked up a bottle for testing. It was not cheap and it's definitely not as easy to find as Tempera or chalk paint, but I'll be putting it through the same testing process and recording the whole thing for your viewing pleasure. If that video is already live, it should be showing up right here somewhere. If not, make sure that you hit that notification bell and subscribe so you don't miss it. Thanks for watching, and as always, keep making and keep experimenting. So long.